Good morning, all. Give me 1 sec as I get set up. I'm going to double check that the audio is working on both Twitch and ZBrush. ZBrush Live. Thanks for joining me for the stream today. Pardon me if I cough a bit because I was waylaid all last week, quite sick, but slowly recovering. Alright, you might hear double audio for a second as I check this out. Covering. Yep, that's working. Cool. Twitch is live. What up, Side Effects? Thanks for joining me. We're joining. Drop questions here, and I'll try to get to them. Alright, let me double check Facebook chat as well, and then we'll get started soon. There's that. Alright, good morning all. Looks like I can hear myself on Facebook as well. Yep, I hear the music doubling up. Okay, cool. So, let's get this show started. Thanks for joining, everyone. Looks like I've got a few questions already. Matt Hoover on Facebook, is there a way to save this video and view it later? Yes, kind of. Okay, so let me do my usual beginning spiel, and then you'll know the answer to that. So if you guys go to pixelogic.com, ZBrushLIVE presenters, then you can see all these awesome streamers, and if you scroll down, you can see me right there, and you can check out the past broadcasts and schedule, and whatever I do live today, Pixelogic ZBrush stores it on their YouTube channel. So I stream Mondays, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can see some of my work on here, and all the previous streams that I've done. So you can see for the past few streams, we've been working on this character. So I've been working, trying to show you guys how I start a project and get it to the point where it's an idea to 3D printed reality. So I've only worked this project while on stream. So in about 4 sessions, about, I don't know, supposed to be about 2 hours per session, but I think I'm only at about 6 hours on this project because I talk a lot and I'm showing you things. But you can see kind of the evolution of this guy. And then you can see some other projects. I work on some of my own characters, some Hero Forge stuff. That's the company I'm working at right now. And some of my Fungusaurs. That's the brand that I'm trying to build. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Aiman Akhtar, and I'm a 3D artist in Los Angeles. And I've been doing a lot of 3D printing for the past, I don't know, 5 years or so. And that has led me to a lot of interesting projects. You know, how should I even say, large-scale sculpture, small-scale sculpture, working in miniature studio right now, 3D prints from virtual reality to reality, so all sorts of things really. And you can see more of my work here in the 3D print section of my website, aiman3d.com. You can tell right now I'm pretty all-consumed with Fungusaurs. That's the brand I'm trying to build. It's toys that I've sculpted in ZBrush, prototyped, and 3D printed using the Form 2 back here, and then I had them mass produced. So now these toys are actually on their way. I was emailed today and told that they arrived in Los Angeles Long Beach Port, 16,000 of them today. So now it's just a matter of getting these toys to my storage and then through customs and then getting them online. So almost there to launching them this November 16th at DesignerCon. Here you can see how they are 3D printed and prototyped. And all the ZBrush sculpts. And in general, if you want to follow Fungusaurs, it's my little plug at the beginning of the stream. You can go to fungusaurs.com, sign up for email updates, or you can check out the Instagram. And this is actually where I do most of my updates, because nowadays I'm taking it to the next level where I'm animating these characters. And this animation is actually from my friend Sean Lopez. And we're going to make an augmented reality app, kind of like Pokemon Go mixed with Tamagotchi kind of thing, so that you can bring the toys to life. And so follow me on Instagram there, Fungusaurs. Alright, so back on the site, you can see all sorts of other projects that I do. Here's a 3D printed costume that I made up a few months ago. Kind of like mixture of Aquaman and Thanos. And then, yeah, I made some 3D printed stuff for my dog. That one went pretty viral recently. Cool, cool. Alright, that answered that question. Indie Respawn, what's up, man? Yeah, Form 2s can be expensive. It's about $3 grand for that machine. $3 grand for this one too, the Race 3D N2 Plus. Those are my two mainstays now at home. I get to saw one of my prints at Aaron Sims Creative had it displayed at the ZBrush Summit 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know it was going to be there, so it was pretty fun to show up and see a print that I had done. This croc was done in 18 parts, so it was 18 prints on a Form 2. So I'm really waiting for 3D printers, you know, SLA 3D printers with a massive build volume, because that'll change a lot for me. Because right now everything needs to be done in a lot of parts and then put together. So it'll be really nice to do less parts. That said, I'm doing some parts right now that I can maybe show you a glimpse of. Hold on. I'll be right back. Alright. So let's do a quick show and tell. Make this monitor a bit larger. Alright, so here's some parts that I'm printing right now for one character. There's going to be a 16-inch print. And here's some of the pieces. And this is how big the Formlabs Form 2 can print. This is not even the largest build volume. It can go probably about that big and fill that whole space up. But you can tell the complexity of these parts. These were modeled by my friend Kyle, who works at Aaron Sims Creative. Kyle Johnson, I believe. Let me double check his name. I forget people's last names. But all sorts of fun parts on this project. And each part needs to be really oriented and sliced and keyed so that it'll fit properly. And that's one thing you need to learn with 3D printing, is how to orient, support parts, and then how to optimize your print so that it'll succeed. I do have a new print that I just did, so I can do a little show and tell in the beginning of this ZBrush stream that I usually do. And I can show you how I take these prints out. Don't know if I can, but let's see. I'll keep this questions thing live. Alright, Matt's asking, have you found the Form 2 to be a lot better than the Form 1? Abso-effing-lutely. Form 1 I had for a year and a half, and my failure rate was really high. I don't know, it was like 50-50, and that's pretty bad. But Form 2 is like a workhorse, man. I mean, like, I printed on this thing a print for a month, and I get 30 good prints. So in order to take stuff out of this, just pop it open, slide out the tray, and then pop it down. This is what a print looks like, kind of fresh off the print bed. Use something like a pry bar to just pop it off, and then, like, literally, you just lever it off, and then I'm going to just pop it in an isopropyl bath so that it'll soak in some alcohol for a little bit. 99% alcohol solution. Fried off. Popped in. Anyone like Aeon Flux? It's been a while since I saw the classic series though. Gotta check it out again. Alright, so I'm just gonna take a little piece of paper towel and wipe this build tray. So first I'll just wipe it, and you can see it's getting pretty clean pretty quickly. And then what I like to do is dip that same paper towel into some isopropyl alcohol and then wipe that tray clean. And you want to do this because I don't know if next time I'm going to use that same gray resin or if I'm going to switch to clear resin or something else. So I don't want that resin stuck on the tray. So that's it. And then you swap it back in. And I'm ready to print again. So I can start printing round 2 of whatever I want to do. That print that I showed you was just like a plate, and it didn't take long. Like it was just a little shoulder plate or something. And I think that took 4 hours to print. And I'll get it out of the printer shortly. Alright. Alright, Vishwakarma Ranjit is saying, what kind of material and color is used for 3D printing? It really depends, dude. For FDM 3D printing, which is that stuff, you use a plastic spool. So you use PLA plastic. I like to use PLA or ABS plastic, and you could choose whatever color you want, and you can, you know, even choose different types of material like wood plastics and metal plastics. And then for the Form 2 and SLA and DLP printers, those are the printers that use lasers or projectors to harden a liquid resin into a physical object, like I just showed you. Those printers are more limited on materials. The Form 2 and SLA and DLP printers. So those are a bit limited on materials, but you use resin, and so you can use a plastic kind of resin that I guess hardens and then lifts up out of the muck, kind of like a Terminator. Itai is asking, would you recommend the Form 2 for jewelry casting? Funny you ask, because I just did so. So here's some jewelry print that I just finished for a client. And so, yeah, I mean, for prototyping, it's perfect. You can see tolerances. You can see when parts don't fit together. You can get a lot of stuff done with jewelry using the Form 2. That said, I don't know if it's the best printer for jewelry casting because the Form 2 is SLA and it uses a laser. So, technically speaking, the best printers for jewelry casting would be DLP printers that use a projector. That way they can finish the whole layer at the same time. It's a bit more even because, you know, there's micro small changes that happen with the laser going left to right that maybe, you know, it won't keep the angle perfect. I mean, Formlabs has worked out a lot of kinks. They market to jewelers heavily. But I'm saying that between a SLA printer and a DLP printer, sometimes DLP printers, most of the time DLP printers provide a better result for jewelry. Alright, cool. Answered your questions. Digital Armory saying that technically the best printers are inkjet wax printers made by SolidScape. Yeah, that's true. Those are industry standards. They're also 100 grand. Absolutely. That's the problem with 3D printing right now, is that the high-end technology is not consumer, prosumer, people ready. It's very much a company kind of game. Yeah, there's definitely, you know, a lot of great printers around for jewelry, I think I did some a while back. Let's see if I scroll down here. Yeah, here. So you can see this is actually 3D printed and then cast in metal. So this is the model that I made. Zoom in a bit. And then it was cast and metalled and coated and then printed. And this was done by Matter.io. I think that company no longer exists. But I think they were using a wax 3D printer, probably one of those expensive SolidScape machines, and then they did the lost wax cast process on them. The benefit of using something really expensive to print your final pieces, like this is great for prototyping jewelry. You can even print in wax, but SLA printers by default leave supports on your structure, and then you have to remove those supports. So it's a hand process. So it's not 100% perfect. And for jewelry, sometimes you do need to be 100% perfect. So there's some printers that don't use supports. They can be laser sintered, which is powder, and then fused together. And so the powder acts as support as the printer rises, or gel. Amirul Aziz is saying Anycubic Photon DLP is pretty good too. Yeah, and Anycubic is pretty cheap too. Check that out for sure. I've heard nothing but good things from people about that printer. Side effects saying, print me a hamburger, I'm hungry. I don't have food printers, dude. One day, though, I can now wait for 3D printed burgers. Because there is going to be a point, you know, where 3D printed meat is going to become cheaper and better than actual meat, which will totally flip the actual meat production industry on its head. So I can't wait for that. I mean, maybe our generation, the generation above us, is not going to be interested in 3D printed meat, but the next generation after that is going to be born with it. So, ha! Can't stop the future. All right, cool. So let's get this party started. So if you guys saw on the previous streams, I was working on this character for Ryan Winch, a friend of mine who's helping me do some of my concepts for my Fungusaurs. And this is a character of his own design. Let's see. Called Logan from his series Space Pilgrim. Here we go. So in the previous short story book that he released, Logan was a younger kid, and he's in space looking for his mom. And now, forward to the next book, he's a bit older. And so this is the character I'm helping him print out and sculpt and print out. There's a little trophy pitch maquette. So let's open up ZBrush and get started. What up, Steven? What up, Miguel? Thanks for joining. Sorry about canceling lunch plans last week, Miguel. I was totally out of it. I took Wednesday off entirely and slept most of the day. And then Thursday I had to take a half day. I was just knocked out. All right. Yeah, being sick is not fun. Having the flu is not fun. Alright, so 5th time we've hit Logan, or at least 4th or 5th time. And I think I'm about 6 hours into this project, so it's still very much in the blocking phase. So I try to get this far usually within about a day or day and a half, you know, less than a day. So we've kind of laid out the proportions, we figured out where things are going to lie, and we've started blocking in these shapes. Started also figuring out the head and kind of expression of the character. But luckily, because I'm working with a friend, he can give me feedback on how it's going. And let's open up his notes. And this is a good thing about working with 2D artists that you know, or asking permission of 2D artists to do their stuff, because then you can send them in progress stuff to get notes. And 2D artists usually send pretty decent notes. They can do drawovers of your stuff. This will also train you to work a bit professionally, because most of the time what you sculpt when you're hired for VFX, games, animation, toys is going to be some other people's concept. It's not going to be your own concepts unless you're being a concept artist. And at that point, then you have to see what other people, you know, have come up with, and you have to work with their notes. So it's good to be trained for that process. Alright, so here's his notes. Downturn the hair a bit, tuck in earlobes a bit. The bottom, boxy headed features, so maybe box things out a little bit more. Simplify hair shapes. Yeah, definitely going to do that. Asymmetrical mouth, definitely. Adds more interest. Smaller nose, okay. Flattened nose bridge. Okay, that's that, I think, at the top. Bridge of the nose. I think that's there. Narrow eyes, less open, more prominent brow muscle. Okay, easy enough. See, wire along the tube. So we're going to add a wire along this other wire. Shorten the top strap. Yeah, that I definitely agree with. And head's too big, pack too small. Okay, so, that looks like a major note that we should hit first. Head too big, pack too small. So let's adjust the scale of the head a little bit. And this is kind of one thing that I start with usually, heads being a bit bigger. Because if you notice when you're working on characters, a bigger head proportionately to the body means the character is younger. So the bigger the head, the more they look like a baby. Because if you've seen babies, babies have these massive heads and tiny bodies. We're born with a head that's, you know, proportionally massive compared to the rest of our body. And as we grow, that head kind of shrinks. So Ryan saying he wants the whole head a bit smaller means he wants his character to appear a bit older. So let's start with the big changes and then work our way to the small changes, and then keep updating this character's details. We'll do a bit more detail pass, hopefully on the clothing today. Yeah, and then fix up some of these issues. Let me pull this off to the side. Pull this up. And I'll keep the Twitch chat and the Facebook chat pulled up on the right-hand side, so if you guys have any questions, just shoot them there. Cool. All right. So, big stuff first. Let's do the head. We can see that the head is part of the body a bit. I like to do this to just kind of help me block out the character. Whoa. Pressed expose by mistake. Let me unexpose. So I like to do this to just help me block out. Just kind of start laying in some anatomy so I know that the character's, you know, looking right. But that also means that it's a few different multiple pieces. So we could try using, what is it called, Transpose Master to merge a few of these pieces. But there's not that many, so I think I'll just merge them. So what I like to do is just send a few of these to the bottom. And then merge them down onto each other. So we got a few more pieces here. eyelids too. And I think there's teeth. There we go. Now that I've got it all in the same scene, or same place, let's use mask lasso. And I'll try to select maybe from the bottom of the neck. That way there's no weird line right through the middle of the character. And come in here and just tap, control tap a few times to soften that mask. Invert that mask. And we can do a scale. Now you could move the whole, head or just do it from this pivot point. I prefer to still do the old-fashioned transpose route. Draw out your transposed line, move it where you want to, and then scale from there. Probably best to see this in context. So we went from there to there. Not much of a change, but I think it's what he wants. Keeping it subtle. Don't want to make it too tiny. Alright, so with that done, I can split parts to basically, I can auto groups, and that'll group all these pieces together. And then I can even do another, I can take it a step further. I've got this button on my bottom custom shelf thing going. Let me show you guys that. So I've got all these buttons that I've, put on my shelf because I use them pretty often. But for you, all these grouping options are going to be under polygroups over here. So you can do auto groups, and you can do also merge similar groups. That means it'll take the eyes and the ears, and it should take these guys. And if it doesn't, you can just isolate them and press Control W, and now they've got their own group. Do that, and then I'll click Split. Group Split. Alright, Saru's asking about topology, and I'm not really there yet at all. Topology becomes important when you get to animation and then game level. For 3D print, topology doesn't matter a lot. And sculpting, really, topology doesn't matter that much. As long as it's quads, it'll divide up evenly. But for 3D printing, the important thing is basically that your models are, interpenetrating through each other at the seams. So this ear, for example, if we take a look at it, if I zoom in, you can see that ear is just kind of hanging out. It's not part of it. So that means if I dynamesh this, there will be a big gap between the head and the ear right there. And you don't want that for 3D printing. You want all the surfaces to be intersecting, and then when you press Dynamesh, those intersections will go away and it'll fuse the two pieces. Dynamesh is pretty good about that. Alright, so one of Ryan's notes was also the earlobes, taking them in a bit, so that works out. This is going to take the bottom of those earlobes in a bit, not give him such a Obama-esque ears. So these ears were just the default insert mesh brush ears. I think you can find them on Bad King's site on badking.au as body primitives, unless they already ship with ZBrush. Smooth that and make sure that that's going deep into the head. I could turn off a few parts to ensure that, but yeah, that's looking good. Do the same on the other side. We'll turn off the hair so I can see. I just want to double check. Yeah, at the end before I print stuff, I dynamesh it all, I decimate it, I do a whole pass on that. Right now it's still more of the sculpting stage, so it's more like being a concept artist right now. Move the whole ear a little bit back. Because ears usually start after our chin does, you know? So technically speaking, his ears should be somewhere around here. His chin should probably come up to about there. Younger characters also tend to have not such harsh, squared off chins. However, this character that Ryan's designed is pretty square. Not personality-wise, but like blocky, I guess is the terminology. Whoa. Alright, so that's a couple of notes. We've shrunk the head down a bit. Move these earlobes in a bit as well. See if I need to move this back. Positioning on that's pretty good. Here's a tip for you. The ears usually line up with the eyes. So wherever the character's eyes are, that line, that's where the ears are. So the top of the eyes usually can be the top of the ears. All right. Another thing that was part of the same note was that the backpack itself was not big enough. So I think he really wants to emphasize the heaviness and largeness of that backpack. Now I want to be too careful because if I make it too big, we'll tip over. But I'll probably hollow it out. And this base is pretty wide, so I don't think there'll be a problem if we make that backpack a bit larger. I do have that backpack at 0, 0. So I can make any changes using symmetry. And also, I do have to make some changes because I want to shrink these straps. These straps are way too long, the top ones. Alright, so let's take a look at his notes and just keep refining. Itai is asking about, do you make your own jewelry? To Stephen and me. So jewelry is something that is not out of reach for 3D artists now. You can sculpt it, you can print it, you can prototype it, you can send it to a lost wax cast kind of caster, and then you can have it. Even Shapeways and services now offer ways for you to send your custom jewelry in and then get it made. So if you are interested in jewelry, definitely look into it because as a 3D artist, it's definitely possible now. Alright, so shrunk the head a little bit, pulled in those ears. Next notes, asymmetrical mouth, pack too small. So I want to make the pack bigger, strap up to there. This area he wants to flatten. Okay, so not that much beveling going on over there. Okay. Alright. Let's get to that. Let's turn up the music. So I'm going to go to Lightbox under Brush. I'll grab Smooth Stronger. That'll just help me smooth things out a bit quicker and better. I can also reduce my Dynamesh amount. And this will just help me smooth out this stuff faster and get to the larger shape first. And then I can come in and keep adjusting all this stuff. So when I sculpted this originally, it was kind of just guides for where the shape should be. And now that I'm going into it a bit better, I can use some hard surface brushes to make sure that it's all the same height. What are you guys working on today? Anything interesting? I know some of you like to send me messages. Sean just sent me a message of 3D print that he's working on right now and coloring up. I'd share it, but I don't really know if I should. Yeah, if you guys have any interesting projects 3D print related that you want me to share during this stream and give you any tips or advice about, you can share them, but let me know that it's okay to show people. Because a lot of people watch these streams. I think it's up to 1,000 people viewing these streams during the course of the stream. So I'm pretty stoked that ZBrush allows me to do this, or gives me the platform to show my work. Alright, so I'm going to try to hide everything else and just work this scene. Maybe I'll work it on a clone. So I'll clone this over. Grab that, append it. And the benefit of working on a clone scene is that there's no subtools. It's just that backpack, and I can just see it. I can do whatever I want, and then I can come back. So I'm just going to pull that in a little bit so that it's kind of intersecting with the other part. Yep. Then let's refine this area. I think the first thing to do is to just smooth the heck out of it, so it's back in line with the profile. You can even use something like the H polish brush to speed this up. Flatten this area out a bit better. Or you know what? Since we're at such a beginning stage of this stuff, and the only thing that I really like is this backpack front part, let's just append a sphere to this area so that way that'll be perfect, and then we can add on proper clean lines and stuff. And I'll show you guys how I do a bit more hard surface rather than trying to fix something. Here's a sphere. I'll go to the deformation tab and size it down.
You're tense, I'm calm. You apply excessive force, I control that force through fluid motion.
Maybe not that small. And move that back. Yeah, if the roundness is important to it, then you want to emphasize that. You can also go to Modify Topology, Mirror, and Weld under the right axis. I think it's Z. And then make sure that it's perfectly symmetrical. There. Now I don't need to worry about all that stuff. And divide that up a few times. Dynamesh it.
It means becoming like clear water. Right.
I'm going to find a slightly less annoying soundtrack.
Without effort one moment, then
Okay. Alright, cool. I like to see people helping each other in the chat. Fuzzpuff is asking, how is ZBrush to learn? Depends, man. If you have a previous understanding of 3D packages, it can be harder because it's very different from Maya or Max or Cinema 4D, where you have a world and you build that model within that world. ZBrush, the model is your world. So navigation can be a bit confusing for people. That said, I think if you get into it, within a year you can be, exactly where you want to be. You guys are talking about Blender earlier. There's always someone talking about Blender. Cool. Alright, so now that I've got a sphere in place for what I want to start doing is adjusting and sculpting it, I'll add a few subdivision levels. So get it up to like a couple million polys. And then let me find some brushes that are better at hard surface. So I could do something like, let's see here. There's a crease brush, so I could use that. There's a crease curve, that's interesting. Let's see. Seen some better ones. I think the crease is probably best bet for me right now. So many brushes that come shipped with the standard ZBrush now. Let's see. Alright, so there's supposed to be a chisel brush. So there we go. Let's use this one. And let's see how this works for us first. There's a whole bunch of different chisel tips you can use. And another thing you can do with chisel brushes is that you can hold shift. Or you're supposed to be able to hold shift. I thought it was a new ZBrush R8 thing. I think the timing has to be perfect for you to hold shift. And maybe lazy mouse needs to be off. Let's try that. There. So when I turn lazy mouse off, I can hold shift and draw straight lines. But there's a bit of stepping happening, which I don't want. That seems strange, that lazy mouse would prevent the shift. Maybe my lazy mouse setting is too high. So you can mess with all the settings under your stroke. There, I just increased the step, so let's reduce the step. It's a bit smoother. So strange. Sometimes it works exactly as you expect, sometimes it doesn't. I know there's a way to do this and I'm just missing it right now. But I think you tap, you click shift so you can get these lines that you can adjust to be how straight you want them to be. And then you do something else. Missing the last part.
And change your lazy radius down to a smaller value. This will get you a little bit closer. You'll have to be a little bit more careful. You'll need to start your stroke and then hit shift pretty quick. And then when you go down here, now it'll go all the way to the end of my stroke. And then I D. And then if you let go of shift, it'll just snap down. Now it did snap down.
I think you just let go of shift. Now, that's so strange. You can tell I don't do hard surface stuff as often. Definitely try to stick within the organic much. But the good thing about the cliff brushes is with an increased lazy radius stroke, should be pretty smooth for me. Now it's being funky. A little bit of lazy step. Oh, you know what? I probably needed the lazy snap on. Let's try that. Yeah, that's it. You just turn the lazy snap on. So under stroke, you go to lazy snap and you have that at 100. And then when you do it, you can let go of shift and it'll start snapping to your curve so you can build a straight line. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually a slightly different approach. In order to make all the lines at the same time and have them evenly cut in, I'm going to do a masking approach. So I'm going to basically select my mask rectangle, and I'm going to make sure my perspective mode is turned off. And my symmetry should be turned on. So I want to go to my transform, activate symmetry, Z symmetry. There we go. Perfect. Select right down the middle. So now I've got a pretty accurate straight line right down the middle. Let me confirm where else there's lines. So there's that one. There's one that intersects this way, down to the bottom, up to the top. So let's get that line as well. So we've got the one in the front. Let's grab the one on the side. Turn on my symmetry on the x-axis this time. No, that won't matter. No symmetry needed. There we go. Might divide one more time just to make it perfectly clear as a line. Of course, it won't let me right now. Because 2.8 million polys, I still see just a little bit of stair-stepping happening. And I can control tap to make it even, but there's still a little bit of topology holding me back from doing what I want. So I'm going to drop these and divide again. So that makes it 11.2 million polys, and now it should definitely work. Z symmetry. Cool. I'm going to try to actually go a step further and select all of the lines and then deform shrink them in at the same time. Cool. Now, select the other part. So there's this panel up at the top. There's a sphere along the back. And that's about it. It just goes up till there. And then we'll project that backpack part on. Or actually, I might use that existing backpack and then just tack it on to the model. Alright, so let's get this at the top, this panel, ready. So first thing I'll do is I'll probably hide the bottom part of my mesh, so I won't select through a bit, ruin my backmasking. And the panel's basically right there. Unmask the stuff in the middle. Cool, cool. May want to adjust this mask a little bit, because if we're aiming it right from the top, it gets this weird angle going this way around. Actually, that looks kind of nice if you look at it straight from the back. Yeah, we'll see what Ryan has to say about it. Alright, got that there. And there's supposed to be like a little sphere area here. So let me hide all of this. We'll unselect over here. And we can actually adjust the type of mask we're drawing. So I can make a mask circle. Let's see what this looks like. And I believe if I hold shift, it should make it a circle. But I can take it a step further. Let's go back to mask rectangle. I can choose an alpha. So I can pick something like alpha 09 for my mask. And then draw it out. So that way I get the top and the bottom. I can also adjust that alpha to make it a bit sharper. I can go under alpha, modify, and adjust the strength of it, the stroke of it, the noise. Let's see. I want to adjust the alpha shape itself. So let's select alpha 09, modify, alpha adjust. Let's make it a bit thicker overall and a bit sharper. All right, let's try that. Now I was doing that and I wasn't holding control. So you got to hold control when you do that. All right. There we go. So now I'm getting an alpha that's a lot more thicker. There we go. Added that on. Next piece is our backpack area. I want to basically not pull that in. Whoop. And do that. Turn off my mask now. Don't need that. Excuse me. So this area is a bit lower. Unselect that. And that whole area we're going to cover with that area for the back. Saru's asking, how long does it take me to finish one Fungusaur from concept to print? Depends, dude. I mean, like I usually do iterations and prototypes. So it takes me 2 or 3 print prototypes to get something that I know I'm happy with, that feels balanced, that I can identify any issues with mass manufacturing too. But I think just when I sculpt it to print, it takes about 3 to 4 hours. So pretty fast. You know, when I'm not explaining as I go, I'm faster at ZBrushing. I'm glad you like how I explain, Silence. Yeah, some people, you know, have all the answers. Like if you look at Paul Gabry or Joseph Drust explain ZBrush, man, those guys have spent so much time into it that they know the ins and outs and 20 different ways to do everything in ZBrush. I've conversely, you know, had to catch up and learn ZBrush every year when the updates come out, and trying to adjust and keep up with all the new tools and tricks, which can be tricky because ZBrush updates are awesome and they're massive. Alright, so what I want to do now is have a much larger circle. So let's select our alpha again. This time I'm going to adjust the stroke a bit smaller because I want to make it larger too. And that feathers it too much. There is a way to actually increase, I think, the mid value. Nope. RF? Nope, that's the softness. Increasing the contrast. Here, decreasing the intensity. That can make it thinner or smaller. There you go, perfect. So let's try this. A bit thicker than I want it to be. Let's try again. And a lot of, you know, working with alphas can be like this, a bit figuring out multiple draws until you get the exact feel that you're going for. So I'm going to keep that alpha, the curve that I'm working on, pretty high. But let's then reduce the intensity and see if that gives us the result I want. Closer. Step by step. This one, actually, I don't mind if it's slightly thicker than the other lines, because, whoa, reduce my intensity too much there. Too much to where it disappeared. Let's do this actually by the numbers. There we go. Alright, so that gives me the result I want, about 42. So let's look at the right angle. Turn on my symmetry. And what I want to do is draw out a big circle so that I can get that backpack strap to where I want it to be. A bit closer to the end of the character. That kind of crowds the top of it. So let's look at the concept again. Alright, so if I'm trying to match what this concept is doing, it's kind of hard because 2D concepts can be tricky. The top of this is pretty close to there. That's fine enough. But it looks like it isn't a perfect circle around that circle. It looks like it's closer to the top and wider at the bottom. So it's not quite the perfect circle. And then there's a bit of a lip there to where the strap attaches. So let's add all of that in. So back in ZBrush, what that means for us is while looking at this, I don't have to be perfectly around that top. I can be a bit more artistic. Now the one downside of this is that it'll definitely mask the bottom and right through the mesh, which is annoying because I don't want that. So I have to basically unmask after I mask. Or I could try to remember where that is and basically hide half that mask, half that mesh. That way it won't interrupt my mask at the bottom. Now this is just one way to do it, guys. There's like so many different ways to ZBrush. I think it's nicer when I do a kind of a oval shape because it gets me the result I want without not interacting properly with the top stuff. Yeah, see, like that gives me the curve I want, and it'll get me close enough to where the strap will be a lot closer. All right, with that done, turn off my alpha, unmask this area. I can even switch from my mask to my mask pen and refine this edge a bit. So just refining that mask. You could do it procedurally as well. So you can go under your mask. Let's see, turn this whole thing on. So under masking, you have a whole bunch of options for what you could do. You could sharpen your mask, and you can see that'll sharpen the whole thing. You could blur it. Let's try blurring it a bit. Just thinking about it. Let's just slow down. So that blurred it a lot. Perfect. All right, so you can blur the heck out of your mask. You can also then sharpen it after you blur it, which can give you a bit of a smoother result. Sometimes it can wreak havoc though, so you want to be careful. But I'm going to do it a couple more times. Let's see what happens. All right. And I'm going to try something different. I'm going to polygroup by mask and use the hard edge features, the polish by polygroup feature, and get all these panels separated. We'll see what that looks like. But first thing I'm going to do is finish this masking. And in the concept, there's a bit of a lip on the front end where the backpack attaches. So let's add that on. We'll just kind of draw it. Cool. Let's take a look again. Excuse me. Alright, so got that. Doesn't look like there's one on the back, so cool. We've got all our mask bases covered. Maybe draw another circle here in the center. So even if we'll flatten that area, we'll just have it kind of go in the middle a bit. Cool. That's pretty easy. Just got to remember to hide half my mesh. And make sure my mask is pretty hard. Cool, cool. And do that blur sharpen thing a couple more times. All right, Hannibal is asking, is there a way to adjust a mask selection or deselection so they both don't cut through the subtool? It's kind of hard to understand what you mean, man. Can you show me an example? Mask selection or deselection, they both don't cut through the subtool. Sometimes it's hard to explain these ephemeral concepts through words. Okay. Cool. All right, I've got all my various masks going. Might thicken up some of these. All right, looking good. See if there's anything else I'm missing in the concept. Nope, got that, got that, got that, got that. All right, yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what I want to do next, just to be safe, I'm going to duplicate this, because that one will maintain my previous mask selection. I don't want to drop my mask selection now after spending 10 minutes making a mask selection. And then let's try something. I'm going to go to polygroups. So the whole thing right now should be one polygroup. I'm going to go to polygroups and do polygroup by mask. So group masked. Now what that'll do is it'll apply, even if I drop my mask selection, it's all polygrouped. Now what I want to do is try something interesting. That's more of a hard surface technique, and I rarely use it, so let's hope I can figure it out properly. I want to do a mesh extract based on the polygroup that I've got selected here. So first I'm going to go to that polygroup, And if you zoom in, if I zoom all the way in, you can see there's still a bit of rasterization. So if I just straight up extrude it out, that rasterization will extrude out. Like I said, multiple ways to do anything in ZBrush. But now that I've got all of this hidden, I'm going to go under my, I think it's crease, so let's try that. Geometry, crease. There's also edge loop. There, I think that's the one I'm trying to do. Panel loops. Insert panel loops around polygroup. Let's see what happens if I just click it with everything on. Delete my other lower subdivision levels and then click panel loops. It'll think about it a bit. Look at that. So panel loops made all of this like interesting detail appear out of nowhere. And it does a pretty good job of cleaning it up a bit too. Still far from perfect. So we need to adjust a few of the settings to make it do what we want it to do. There's group loops and edge loop too. So I'm going to try doing all of these and seeing if we can get a clean edge the way we want it. Alright, group loops gives me a pretty good result. Cleaning up all of that edge border. I think that's what I was going for. Let's just select that. Look at that. So that is clean. That's what we wanted. So the group loops gave us the result we needed. Now there's 100 different ways to do this. Caitlin Sculpt is saying on Twitch, blend the seam with polish before merging, and you could have edge loop mask border, which would give it a polygroups too. I will try all of these things eventually. Okay, so now that we've got this polygroup, which has all of this part kind of exactly the way we want, we could try a couple of different things. I could now try to polygroup and just basically increase the thickness. So panel loops with a bevel with none of this stuff will work pretty well, but let's try something else. Let's go with simplicity first. So I'm going to select that part, mask it, flip that mask, and now that I've got a group loop, let's see what happens when I simply save before messing with deform, backpack test. Let's see what happens now that I've group loops if I just do a simple size or inflate. Let's do an inflate. Let's do an inflate of 5. Now that's coming out pretty clean. Let's try doing a bit more though. And negative. So let's do negative 15. Drop that selection. And that looks pretty dope. I think I need to make it a bit deeper. So let's try again. Instead of negative 15 I did before, let's do negative 25. And the reason I'm trying to do it a bit more than I think is because I'm thinking about 3D printing and making a physical object. You want to go a bit further than you think every time, just to make it how should I explain this? When you print something in real life, the details don't show up the way they would in a model. So you want to enhance, you want to push it a bit further than you would think. All right, so that gives us a pretty good result. Still a bit of wonkiness at the edges, so I might try a couple of different techniques to resolve that. But pretty close. I mean, some hard surface techniques for you guys to experiment with. Let's see what happens when I just kind of start hitting smooth around it. Luckily, I've got my polygroup model saved, so I can experiment a bit with this stuff later. Alright, so next thing I want to do, still got a lot of polys. I want to add in these parts from the backpack and stuff. So let's duplicate my backpack, the previous one, pull it down. I'm going to hide a bunch of stuff that I don't want, poking out of it. Let's delete hidden on that stuff. And I'm going to move some of these pieces around too so they're a bit more conducive to what I want. Let's go with damn standard. And I can also select the internal sphere here. Oh, looks like I've got more than one on. Let's pull out that detail again. Now, I could have projected this detail, but since I already had it, it made sense for me to just start using it as its own subtool. And later when I Dynamesh merge it together, it'll come in perfect. Alright, backpack's looking good. Getting there. And I'll have to scale the whole thing up now too, because that's what he said, he wants scaled up. Alright, now all of this stuff along the side, it's intersecting with this edge and it's not looking that good. So let's move some of these pieces. I could do something. You know, I want to duplicate that part for the top anyways, so let's select it. And with my select lasso tool, just kind of hide more of the edges around it, delete those. Cool. Now, with all these parts separate, I can just click auto groups and then it'll group all of them separately. And again, want to do the, maybe I should add that button down here because I use it plenty enough. Under masking, under polygroups, merge similar groups. And sometimes that doesn't work anyway. So I'm just going to isolate select them because I want to be able to affect them individually. There we go. Whoop. Something wonky going on in that one. Cool. And let's move some of these pieces around. It's being strange. Like this side is looking good, but that side isn't. And I thought it was symmetrical. So I'm going to delete this one. Whoa. Let me do a group split. So I'm working only on the things I want to work on. Delete hidden. And let's see what happens when I mirror and weld if it goes over to the other end properly. Modify topology, mirror and weld. Not in the x-axis, in the z-axis. Perfect. And now it's symmetrical. I might do that with this part too, just to double check. Delete hidden. And mirror and weld. Oh, in the X, not in the Z. Yes. Cool. Just getting it all a lot cleaner. Alright, so now I'm going to duplicate those little nubbins. Move them up. Might be another case where working on that as one piece might be easier. Because I will move that up and into place. I'm smiling because I can hear the pitter-patter of my corgi's feet just outside the door. He's like, what are you doing? Who are you talking to, guy? Alright, that's looking pretty close to where I want it to be. Slowly just adjusting that piece into place. Running into some weirdness did not anticipate, which is the nature of sculpting. Chaos, as it were. Cool. Alright, then I'm going to take that. I will do the same thing I did earlier. Geometry, mirror, and weld. And I've got all the pieces in place now. So I'll keep this file active in case I, want to update stuff later. But for now, got all these pieces there, got those. So I'm going to go to geometry and merge them down. Let's see. Let's do merge visible. Under subtool, merge visible, and it'll combine all of those pieces into one. Be a bit heavy. Tomas Whittlebach, what's up, dude? Thanks for joining. Smartest here too. What up, Stephen? All right, cool. Let's see. Now, clicking merge visible doesn't put that stuff here. It'll put it up here at its own tool, and that's 11 million polys. Now, that's a bit heavy, so let's merge it all and clean up some of these seams a bit. I think that should work pretty well for me. So, I'm going to go to geometry. If you turn on Control W, you can see all those groups there. A lot of groups. Even try messing around a bit. Let's try something. Since I've got all of this stuff separated, let's try inflating some stuff. It's probably going to crash me. Inflate always crashes me. And so I try to put in the numbers when I inflate, rather than doing it manually. 15 is way too much. Let's try a 10. That'll just make all those lines a bit thinner and round out the bevel near the edges. Make it a bit cleaner, hopefully. Let's see. Nah. If it did it evenly, I would do it, but it doesn't look like that mask selection is even. Let's try doing it here. ZBrush works in mysterious ways, I've noticed. Alright, enough of that for now. We'll try something else. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and Dynamesh this together. All those multiple poly groups will unify by pressing Control W. And let's Dynamesh, let's see how low we can go. Let's go to 500 first. And from 11 million to 8,900 polys. Looks like I'm getting a bit of crunchiness, which I don't want. So let's try again at 800. No, let's go higher. Let's be crazy. 900. Itai's asking, what does that value stand for? 25 what? It basically stands for ZBrush units. That's the best way of explaining it. There's no, this is the unit it stands for. It's ZBrush measurements. I should have done it by now, but I'm not seeing anything happen. So I'm gonna try to poke the beast. Let's see what happens. Hopefully I don't crash. It's thinking. There we go. Okay, so basically took it down from 11 million to 2.9 million. Let's try doing some sculpting on this, see if it works to smooth out some of these seams. Yep, working. Cool. Make sure I have symmetry on when I do that. Symmetry in the Z-axis. There we go. Just going to hit everything with a little bit of smoothing. This is definitely the fun part for me, my forte, more organic sculpting. Inflate some of this up. Let's try something. Let's do an inflate over the overall, the whole thing. I'm gonna save just in case. Hold on, is this? Yeah, this is on its own subtool, so I want to append it into my backpack scene. And then save. Backpack test 1. And that works as expected for sure. When you inflate the whole thing, it works. Alright, so that was an inflate of 10. Let's try inflate of, I don't know, 15 and see what it does. I always overdo it and then pull it back. I don't think I need much, like 5 maybe. And you can also inflate in parts, you know, you can do like 2 and 2 and 2 again. Dynamesh the whole thing again. I'm basically seeing this whole project as a learning experience, trying new stuff, upping my hard surface game eventually. Symmetry's on, so I can fix some of these lumpiness. Alright, and then now we're going to scale the whole backpack up a little bit for going with Ryan's notes. Head too big, pack too small. So I'm going to make the whole pack bigger. So this stream basically turned into you guys seeing how I address client changes, or, you know, how I address client feedback. Is that 1, you pay attention to it, and then 2, you figure out how to give them what they want. I like this song. I'm going to save this track. Alright, Itai's asking, do you use the blur when dynameshing? Yeah, I guess so. Dynamesh has a blur option within it. I often just do it on my own though. Let's see. Smartest is saying, turn off the blur. It depends. Like, my process is pretty different because I'm not used to doing that much hard surface. Here, the blur slider will control how much smoothing a Dynamesh will receive when project is enabled. So it doesn't really matter if project isn't on. So you need to have project on for blur to do anything at all. But it does probably affect, I don't know, ZBrush thinks a lot. So it's probably affecting the thinking process of ZBrush. Alright, looks like... no, it feels right. Okay, so let's now import this updated backpack, a bit cleaner lines, into our existing scene, and then add it onto Logan. I'm going to delete out some of these things I don't need in scene anymore. Cool. So this was me already going ahead and adjusting the straps earlier without even knowing what they would turn into. So I've got extra straps in this scene somewhere. Got an extra piece here from the mesh extract earlier. I'm just going to do a little scene cleanup. Keep it all organized. Those are the older straps. See, these new ones are still separate, right? Yep, okay. No loss if I toss these. It's the Ghibli track. It's like a Ghibli tribute track. Alright, now let's import in that new backpack and replace this one. So I'll click Append. Let's see. Make sure I get the right backpack. Delete this one out of the scene. Backpack. Let's append that. And there we have our new backpack. While we're still having it at the central area, I'll go to deformation and increase the size. Whoop, wrong thing selected. Make sure I have the backpack selected. Increase the size a bit. I mean, that looks a lot bigger, so I think that'll satisfy Ryan in the scale as compared to the previous one. Let's pull up the previous one down here as well. Might be a bit way too big. I don't know. I like it. I think it'll still work and it'll still print. So let's go with that. Pardon me. Keep coughing, man. I'm almost well. Yeah, that backpack is massive. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Yeah, we'll have to adjust the straps a little bit, but that's expected. To be expected. Move it back slightly too so we see some of that detail we sculpted in. I think there needs to be a little bit of rotation on that backpack. It's too vertical. So maybe if I do this, just add a little bit of rotation to it, you know, because his back is bent, so it makes sense the backpack would be too. Cool beans. Yeah, I'm digging it. So basically, we took the backpack from there to there. Let's take a look at that again. Before and after. Adjusted the size, cleaned up a lot of those lines from the rough sculpt before. Changes the silhouette. Yeah, I'm digging it. Alright, let's move on. Got these tubes here. Let's make sure they're going into the proper area. And then we can add that additional tube around this tube or snaking around that tube that we want to do. Let's fix these straps as well. Kind of do them one at a time. So let's do that one first. So this guy that I've got under my strap right here, he's basically just there as filler to act as, like, you know, a stopgap to make sure this thing prints. Something you got to think about when you're printing, you know? You always got to think about engineering. Let's pull those straps out a bit so they look like they're going in properly. Into the backpack, I mean. Might need to rotate some of these pieces or pull their bottoms. And who knows, if I get annoyed by them being too organic and not having enough detail, I might just redraw them. Use these as a base, dynamesh them at a super low resolution, and then remake these straps. That's why you got to do personal projects, so you can get better at everything. Now, a good thing is, when I was working this, I made sure to keep all of these straps their own polygroups, so I could actually rotate them one by one, which is kind of a pain in the ass, though. I don't want to do that right now. But I can. So I like that that option exists. For now, though, I'm just going to get the straps in place. And we'll come back to it later. I'm going to smooth them out too. Really emphasize those gaps between these edges. Also, they should be a bit smoother, because that'll be really uncomfortable as a backpack if they're super hard edged. Yeah, actually, the more I smooth them out, the more I like them. No counting for taste. But they read so much better, too, when they're smoothed out. What? Yep. Get this filler kind of nice and hidden away. You know, I might not even need it later. Especially if I inflate these guys up a bit. I could also inflate them and then H-polish later. I like how many ways ZBrush provides to do anything. I was trying to curve it so that it comes out kind of curved from the proper area, but I don't want to curve it because I want it to feel like this backpack's very heavy. So the straighter the straps are, the more it shows that, okay, it's a lot of weight, you know, like there's a pull to it. So you've got to think about that. That's actually way more important than sculpting technique, is sculpting no understanding of why you're sculpting things. And that's kind of just built over time and experience. Why you're sculpting things the way you're sculpting things. You know, I'm just going to hide that filler because it's just annoying for now. And I'll name it filler. Let's pull those in a bit as well. Cool. So that's the treatment we're going to give the rest of the straps. And maybe make it align a bit better in the front as well. But for now, I'm just going to basically get all these straps in position. And I think we're almost out of time for the stream. Let's see. See if we can do anything more. I'm probably now, because it's been about 4 sessions, you guys have seen my process of starting this from a primitive and getting it to this point. We're probably up to about 8 hours on this project, about 1 day of work. So I think now is about a good time to start me sculpting on my own and then show you guys later when it's more refined, and then I can go over a bit more detailing specific things like specific hair stuff and specific clothing stuff, rather than show you all the minutia, because that's what a lot of sculpting stuff is. It's minutia. Because I'm trying to show you guys what I'd like to see when I watch streams. It was already masked. I want to keep it interesting. I'm going to hit all the rest of these straps, with inflate and smooth them a bit. Kind of following along with what I did for the top snap here. Snap again, I said it again. I think I just need to watch Infinity War again. Keep thinking about the snap. Only my 2 cents is asking, how long have you been working on ZBrush? That's a good question. I've had it since ZBrush 2, so it's been a while. I started back in college in 2008. No, yeah, 2008 is when I graduated college. And so it's been about a decade or more of ZBrush. But it's pretty hard to show something really, really good looking in a stream, especially in about, this is total 8 hours of character, and I'd say it's mostly been blocking so far. Thinking about the anatomy, thinking about the forms, thinking about trying to make it appealing bit by bit by bit. And what I like is seeing the final work, but final work usually for a full character easily can take 3 or 4 days, if not more, if not a month. Some people spend on the same one character. And we can't go over like every minutia of a character on a stream. That would take forever. Yeah, so like I said, if I want to make these straps a bit more hard edge later, I could just hit them with H polish and it'll start hardening them. But we'll see. I might want to keep the organic look a bit. Alright, let's go to the subtool master, or just click on the subtool and fill object. I'm using the Sculpey material, the RS Ralph Stump Sculpey here. And so I'll fill that. And so got the backpack adjustments in place, got the strap adjusted. Don't really have much time to do much else right now. Let's see what else we can hit quickly from the client's notes. Asymmetrical face and asymmetrical mouth. Flatten nose bridge a bit, narrower eyes. Yeah, we can hit all that pretty quickly. Yo, Adrian! Give a bit more asymmetry in that expression. More narrower eyes, so I can just basically lift this stuff up a bit. And bring those eyelids down a little bit more. Now, one thing about eyelids is that they're widest at the point of the pupil. So you can even make them way narrower, but just make sure the pupil stays a bit intact. I think Brian wants more prominent brows. So I'm going to bring out these brows and bring them down a bit. Now, if you add too much brows, your characters look like Neanderthals. But just the right amount, they look pretty good. And brows can do a lot of good facial expression too. Just like mine do. Yeah, I guess he wants them just kind of much more straighter line. And simplify these hair shapes. I think he's set to have a smaller nose, so I'm just going to use the pinch brush. Make this nose a bit teens here. Cool. Now I'll need to mess with it more. It's not looking as appealing as it was before. Just more time on the sculpt. That's all it needs. Let's see. Wire along tube, flattened nose bridge, asymmetrical mouth, more boxy head, so that's a bigger change. And then downturn the hair. I think he wants to have the whole top of the hair be a bit flattened too. So I should make the big changes first and then do the small stuff. So hopefully you guys like watching me work and learn something from this process, or at least like my taste in music. Dynamesh that, smooth it out a bit. So yeah, next time you see this guy, he'll be a bit further along, and then maybe I'll show you guys some other projects that I've been working on as well. Let me pull his hair up a bit and then have it drop. All right, let's turn on perspective. Let's take a look. So this is basically what a day of work on a character looks like, maybe a little bit more now, but all blocked in, and now ready for detailing and refinement and refinement and refinement. So I'm going to start hitting this off stream and then show you guys when it's looking a bit better. And we'll continue on and take it from there. Thanks again for joining me, everyone. I'm going to see if there's any last second questions. Nothing there. Itai saying I'm here for the music. Good. All right, thanks, man. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys. No, actually, I'm off next week. Next week, I'm going to be at the Unity LA Expo all week, so I'm taking the Monday off. But then I will be back the week after, so on the 29th. So Monday the 29th, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST. Stick around at 11 a.m. today. I think in an hour is another presentation. Let me double check. Whoop, 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 whoop. I think Shane Olsen is scheduled to be on later today. Yep, so at 11. So stick around for Shane Olsen's awesome characters, stylized stuff. All right, guys. Next time.